Well, if you have ever wanted to do a podcast, and this is coming out right at the end of December and the beginning of January, where you might watch this, I think, oh, I really want to do this. I don't think I can do this. You're going in the hemming and hawing of yourself. Then today is a day for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Edge. I'm so excited to have my guest with me, Jonathan Emery, who I'm like, oh yeah, he is like the king of podcasting. If you ever thought like I can't do this. After this episode, you are going to be convinced in the next 10 minutes, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And he's going to give you some amazing insight on how to get started. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Hi, Raquel. Thank you for having me. This is going to be great.
Yes. Well, if you can go ahead and maybe even, well, before you share your story, just give a little teaser of why you came into podcasting and why you believe that if it's in your heart, this is something that you really, really need to do, especially for 2025.
Yeah, so I'll try and make this really short. So quick journey for me. I lost a job after 20 years, got divorced in the same year, which I didn't see coming. And so that led me on a journey of just kind of exploring myself, trying to grow in 5 areas of life. And about a year and a half after that, I started the podcast. Now, it took me 6 months before starting. Uh, where I kind of got stalled. Somebody I met was like, why don't you take, I had 10 Facebook Lives on something else I had. And he's like, why don't you just take the audio from that, strip it, and launch your podcast? And in my head, it had nothing to do with what my podcast is today. So I didn't do it. So I was stalled for 6 months. And after that, I did it and I just launched it and then I changed it to what it is today. But it was enough to get me going. So what it is today is people sharing their journey in life. And because I experienced something, I had to figure out how I was going to get through that, talking to other people and everything, helping me along the way. So these people come on and they share their experiences, and I get to learn how they got through other things totally different from my journey. And hopefully it helps and connects with somebody else that listens to it, or they can share it. That person can share it to somebody else that might need to hear it. And so the mission is that somebody out there needs to hear this at some point given in time, and that it can help them, whether they reach out to me, reach out to the guest, or they reach out to somebody else that can support them in any way possible for what they're going through. That's the whole idea behind it. And that's why I continue to do it today. It's been about 2 years and 125 episodes so far.
Wow, that's amazing. Is it a weekly podcast?
Yeah, so I do one episode a week, and I've done two every once in a while a week. That's only if I have it. I'm not gonna push myself to the edge to, get it out there. But yeah, and everybody's different. So you can do daily, you can do monthly, people do seasons or whatever. But as long as you are consistent, I can see that being the the number one thing you should be focusing on. And it is one per week that a lot of people tend to lean towards. I don't know about you, but when you watch TV shows, they did a season and it's gone for summertime and it comes back on and you just kind of like forget after a while. That's how I would be. So people tend to drift, and you can only listen to so many podcasts, so people might just drift away if you're not creating new ones all the time.
Yeah, you said so many important things that I just want to like pick at, especially for somebody who's thinking about doing this and maybe has been in like this fear of like, do I really want to do this? Do I have the talent? Maybe I need all these things. And it's like, no, just start. It's okay to just start. And it's going to develop, if it develops into something else, that's fine. It's organic, and don't be afraid to start with what you have and just get going. It's like the best advice, just get going and don't worry about how it's going to look. Go in it with your open heart, do the best that you can, have some fun with it, and see what happens with it. And the other thing I think that is so important for people to really get and to take away today is that, go at your own pace. Don't try to do like two, three, four, like my podcast on YouTube and on Spotify and Amazon. It's based on a series. There's like 21 days, but it's created to be like little micro classes. But I'm a teacher. It's what I love to do. So it's really like my sweet spot. Let me give you something you can go run with, and then give you enough so you can go and continually do it. So by the end of 21 days, you've created momentum. But that's in alignment with like what I'm called to do, what I have time for, what I'm passionate for. And I love that you're like, I'm doing one, which is what most people do. And maybe I do too. Maybe I don't, but it's okay because you've already decided I'm not going to be pushing myself. And that's so important that you stay in your lane. What is your lane of energy? What is your lane of focus? What is your lane of your own giftings? What is your lane of what you want to bring into the world and why you're doing this? So thank you for sharing that. I think so many people get scared. What are maybe a couple of frequently asked questions that people ask you when they come seeking for your advice and want to work with you one-on-one to help launch their podcast?
Yeah, so it's mostly like the microphone, the camera and stuff is like the number one, but that's really not what number one should be. It should be, why are you starting a podcast? You got to have that burning desire in you, that reason, that passion. I come across all these people that, said they've been wanting to do it for 3 years or whatever, and they wrote all these scripts and they just never did it, right? So did they really focus on their why and then started, hey, how do I get this thing going and implement the next few steps? So I would say that's number one, and that's the first thing I ask for in my course is just like, let's get to the why, because you might get to that point where you're gonna give up, but then you have to come back to, why did I start? And that's the whole reason why I mentioned what my mission is for my podcast, because that's why I started. And I didn't do it to create an audience. I didn't do it to monetize. Yeah, it's headed in that direction now, but that's not why I started. And so I want those people that want to start something to realize, let's not aim towards money and, fortune and fame and all that stuff with a podcast right now. Let's just enjoy it, have fun, and share with the world what you're passionate about, or connect with others if it's interviews. Um, that Another one would be, how frequent should I do the episodes? I'll hear that. And I guess if I was to say a third one, um, I want to say time. I guess people are curious about how much time is involved. A lot of people really don't know how much time can be involved. It really depends on the host. How much are they willing to edit? Is this Are we doing a live? And it just shoots it right out there. Everybody's different. So it's your own podcast. You get to create it to what you want, and you can always change it along the way. Just like I did with my podcast. I did the first 10 and then it's shifted into what it is today. So those are the first three I can think off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a whole bunch more as well.
Those are really good because it's those things where you're like, oh my gosh, how expensive it's going to be, what kind of microphones, and we get so tied up in the aesthetics or sometimes the equipment, and then we end up not doing anything. We go into
Yeah.
analysis paralysis, and then we do nothing for 3 years, for four
Yeah.
years.
That's exactly
We
what it
write all
is.
these
Yeah.
beautiful scripts, and we're like, oh, I can say this and I can say that, and now you learn and you change, and now you have to go back to your old scripts, and before you know it, you're like, well, I don't even want to talk about that anymore. It goes by the wayside. One of the things that I'm really passionate about as a coach is that um, I don't want people to go to the grave full. I want them to go empty. I want them to do everything they've been called to do, to say the things they were to say. And podcasts are really like a really great way, almost like a mini audiobook. Right? We have books that stay there forever, and now with technology, like what we're putting out there can serve generations because there's just some things about a human experience that is always going to be the same. And that's why I really appreciate your podcast, because even when we're long and gone and all your guests are empty now in the grave because we've done everything we're supposed to do, your podcast gets to live on for generations, and impact generations because people were brave enough to say, yeah, I'll come to your podcast and I'll be a guest and I'll share my journey. So I just want to thank you for creating that safe space for people to share their journey, to share what happens to them so they can encourage people who are listening now and the generations to come. So I'm really excited about that. What is the name of your podcast if people want to check you out?
Yeah, life's Checkmark.
And where can we find that?
It's Spotify, Apple, YouTube, you name it, it's out there. She's to like 50 different platforms, I believe. So it's all over. And it's life's Checkmark because in a sense I grew up in a way kind of thinking I had to get a job, get a degree or whatever, married, kids, house, all that. And to
Mhm.
me, that was my check mark when really that's not how it has to be because somebody else told me this is how it should be. So that's why I have it called Life's Checkmark, because you can create your own check mark, not what somebody else is telling you it should be. So when you listen to the journeys and stuff, you can hear how they navigated, switched from whatever they were going through to what they're doing today. And you can be part of that. You can create your own check mark in a sense.
That's awesome, especially because sometimes people get very scared over some of the things that they're hearing out there, and they don't know how to anchor. They don't know how to just come back into their body, into themselves, or into their heart, or even their own head, and be like, okay, I can create X, Y, and Z. So it's always great to hear other people's journeys and their victories of how they've been able to navigate it, because it might either inspire them or give them an idea like, oh, I really connect with that guest. I'm just like that person. Maybe I should try that too. So that's so helpful. I know that you have an exciting event happening January 18th, 2025. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So it's an event I'm hosting up in New York. The information, I can send you a link for all the other information, but I'll be there, and for other podcasters. I met them through podcasting. They're coming from different states to come up and, share what they know about podcasting. So it's a 3-hour event. Each person will have about a half an hour to speak, and it's free. So it can seat 40 people. So the seats are limited, but I'm just looking for fun. People can learn how to start a podcast. They can learn how to grow their podcast, connect with the podcasters that are there. So there's time for networking. And that's basically what it is. Like, it's just podcasting. Like, just that's what I want. I want fun. And that's why I made it free. So people aren't scared. They can come out and not be afraid to be part of something and have to pay a huge fee to get involved, just to learn a little bit of something before they dive into something that they, like I said, for 3 years, and then they get to that point where, like, I don't know what to do next. So here's an opportunity where you can talk to me, you can talk to these other podcasters, and see what they're doing and see how they navigated through it. And just real quick, one podcaster, she does AI, another one helps people with abusive relationships, another one's all about branding, and the other one does YouTube, and she's into audio and everything like that. So, and she's taking care of other people as well. So it all diverse, we're all different areas of podcasting. So yeah, I mean, so I'll give you the link, and people could just register. I Again, I'm just looking for people to show up and have a great time.
That sounds amazing. And that is incredibly generous for you to sow into other people's lives that way, you and the other podcasters. So, from the audience, thank you so much for that. And where is it located? Where would it be located for those of
Yeah,
before?
it's New York. You got me here because it starts with an M. I'm gonna find it. It's right here in front of me. So it is Mamaroneck, New York.
Mhm.
Mamaroneck. So it's at the White Room, and that is the venue where one of the podcasters has his stuff. So that's where it'll be at.
So if anybody is near that place in New York, or you just want to get out of the house and you're like, you know what, I need to just go
That's
start
right.
my January journeys and just start me traveling. And
Yeah.
you know what, it's
Yeah.
2025. You can start, if you book it this year, you might be able to take it off your taxes this
Yeah.
year.
It's
Because
yeah.
at
So
least it's expense.
right, and it's called the 2025 Podcast Launchpad. So, like, we're here to set you off and get you going in the beginning of the year with your podcast.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being my guest here on the Entrepreneur's Edge. Is there anything else you would like to say before we wrap up?
I would just like to say, don't give up on your hopes and dreams, and just keep moving forward. I will say times are tough sometimes, but we all get through 100% of our tough days. And, just I encourage everybody to keep moving forward. I know it's a totally different topic from podcasting, but you can experience that through podcasting as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again for being here on the Entrepreneur's Edge. Until next time, everybody, may God's riches and best be yours. Bye for now.